Hello, everybody. I have been very under the weather, so I've been a little absent for a couple days. I'm still a little under the weather, but we've seen some really interesting things happening in the market, and I want to try and see if I can explain some of the happenings to everybody here. What I want to do is kind of take a look at a wider picture, and I want to take a look at the few indicators that I do happen to rely on quite a bit. Um, Taking a look, of course, at creating the correct um, numbers as far as your Fibonacci retracement levels are concerned. I'm taking all the way back to $1,900 here back in July of last year, up to, of course, the cap where we saw right around 20,000. Looking at a few of the trends from the last spike that we had, um, from the last drop here, which was right around November 13th, and moving on through today. Seeing some positive and negative trend lines from this particular point, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to take a look here. I also have a downtrend that we can see is pretty predictable. We can see if I zoom in just a little bit and kind of collapse my titles up here. You can see if we started up here at the top of our mountain, and we move our way down, we can see actually, even if we take that second peak that we saw here at about 17,100, if we just use these 2 points, we could predictably see that we were going to have a reversal here at about 11,500. And now we are back, getting very close to this point. There's a couple things that I'm looking at in addition to this. I'm taking a look at the longs and shorts. So I'm looking at the longs and shorts, not according to BitMEX, but looking at the longs and shorts from Bitfinex. The green line we have all the way down here at the bottom is the dollar amount in longs, and the red line is the dollar amount in shorts. Of course, when we see big spikes in volume, we're going to see a certain level of shorts that are going to be liquidated or going to be closed to attempt to not get liquidated. But you can see the longs that we have are staying pretty steady, but the shorts have gone from about let's see here, this is 22,629 up to 27,365. So we're seeing the numbers increasing a little bit more and more. I would be concerned if I saw the longs and shorts cross again. You can see they did attempt to cross a couple days ago. I'm looking at the 1-day chart, by the way. So I'm looking at all of these different indicators, trying to get a good perception on where Bitcoin is going. Now, this is just Bitcoin. Of course, we know that most altcoins are doing very, very well, and you can actually see it if you take a look at my watch list. You can see that there's lots and lots of green in the Christmas tree right now, not a whole lot of red. Not surprisingly, Encash is in the red. And then we have also power, which is also in the red, but most things are doing very well. But with Bitcoin being up where it's at, we can see that we had a good trend here. We had a good level of support at this particular level right here, and we're still seeing that support. So we saw it way back here on on the 17th of March. We saw support, and then we saw a bounce off of that support. There's a little spike underneath it, a good bounce, took us up to $8,900, $9,000. Then we saw it go back down. It hit that support, and this is where we had the bear that took us all the way down here back to under 7,000, took us to 6,800, all the way down to 6,500, and a lot of us thought, oh, this is it, this is our last spike, and then we're going to go down, and we're going to go all the way down to 5,000. And then we saw the whale come in and basically buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin to take the price up. And we have seen over the last few days some things that not a lot of people are really prepared to deal with. There's a lot of volatility. People are referring to it as the Bart Simpson's head. So you can see a big spike, We have some jagged movement up at the top, and then it comes down to create that that Bart Simpson face. Um, Now we're seeing that going up, we're seeing that going down, going up, going down, up and down. It's been nothing but an up and down game, and we can see it happening left and right, and not just on the 30-minute chart, but if you're taking a look even at the 30-minute chart, you're seeing huge spikes up, and you see that there's a lot of resistance to that. You see spikes down and a lot of support to keep that up. So we're kind of at the point right now where we're actually creating a little bit of a rising wedge, which is not really the greatest sign. I wouldn't be surprised in the middle of me doing this video if we saw the price of Bitcoin drop a bit. So we're seeing this rising wedge happening, and as we get closer to the apex of this wedge, typically what we're going to see, and I say typically because usually this is what happens, we're going to see that price come down. And where is it going to go down to? We really don't know, but it may go down as low as 8,000. It may go down farther than that. It might not go down at all. I'm more or less just giving you some ideas based on the indicators that I see. The fact that there is so much uncertainty that's happening on the 30-minute chart leads me to believe that there are going to be some major moves that are going to happen. And what's really hard to tell in this market specifically is that going to be going up or is that going to be going down? What we can tell by looking at the volume is the major spikes that we have in volume are all positive movements. So this is an indicator that sort of telling us that we could potentially have another rise come in. But that doesn't mean that somebody that with a lot of Bitcoin is going to take advantage of these buys coming in, that they're going to try and push that price back down and take advantage of the higher price of Bitcoin. There's a lot of sentiment that says, the trend is your friend. Really what it comes down to is how far back you trust that trend to be. If you're looking at the hour chart, yeah, that trend, it looks pretty good. That trend looks like it's moving in an upward direction. So if you want to trust that as your trend, that's great. If you look at the day, well, our trend is still moving down. And the why I say that is because if you're using this as a baseline, the trend is still moving down. So it really depends on what your long-term or short-term goals are. If you're looking at this on a long term, there could be more potential for us to return back to $6,600, $6,700 if we're looking at this lower rising trend. If you trust that, if you trust this lower downtrend, this could give us more potential to get back to 6,500, depending on how far out this goes. One way or another, we are getting to this area where things have to turn around eventually and start moving back up. So the question is, do you go ahead and buy right now and wait for things to start turning around? Or do you take the short term and see this upward trend and buy and take advantage of a small uptick, maybe up to 8,400, 8,500? If we're looking at it from this perspective where we're seeing the price going to our downtrend, we're really looking at 8,400 as our point where we're actually confirming a return to a bull market. So once we're able to bypass this downward trend that we have been looking at here, then I think we're at that point where we can confirm that we are in a bull market and we're going to see this price go up. It could potentially go back up to 10,700, 10,000, something like that, before we see some retracement. But a lot is going to happen here in the next couple hours, maybe the next couple days, before we really get any kind of confirmation. But take a look here at this downtrend and use this as a gauge for where the market is actually going, because as you can see very clearly, we are still battling the resistance at these levels, and chances are pretty good we're either going to I know this is a 50-50, so for me saying the chances are pretty good it's either going to go up or down is kind of a dumb statement. But when we get to this point here, the market is either going to return to its bull market, and in my opinion, this is where we're going to see an increase in volume, or we're going to see a rejection. We do have better volume that has happened since we hit this 11,400 mark. We've seen an uptick in volume, but it is steadily decreasing. We have seen some very low days where volume has been very low. We've also talked a lot about our death cross on our moving averages. So I know this is going to get really, really busy here, but what I'm focusing on is this light red line that's moving, and focusing with our green line so we can see the death cross happened right around here. And as we expected, I've got my magnet on here, so it didn't really draw very well. As we expected, when the cross happened, we saw this drop in price. And historically speaking, when we get to that point where the cross occurs, we are going to see an uptick in volume. We are going to see an uptick in price, but eventually, at some point, there is a possibility that it could turn back down. So we need to keep an eye on the markets. So just wanted to give you a few different things to look at, a few different indicators to take into account. Take a look at some of the key moving averages, which are the 25-day, the 50-day, the 100-day, and the 200-day. I take a look at these moving averages all the time. Take a look at the trend. Again, with the phrase, the trend is your friend. You want to try and catch it, of course, as low as possible, but never be afraid to buy back in, even if you have a loss of profit. You didn't lose in a term of losing your US dollars. I know it always sucks to sell something for the price to kick back up, but if the price is going to continue moving up, you're still making profit at the end of the day. So look at the momentum, look at the volume, look at your moving averages, look at your trend lines, and see which direction the market sentiment is moving. And if you're long-term versus short-term, take those indicators into account, according to those levels. So if you like to buy and sell many times throughout the day, naturally you're going to be looking at the 1-hour chart, the 30-minute chart, which right now it's pointing, look for a good area to buy and buy in. Just ride the wave up and be ready to sell. You really want to be careful when we get closer to the our downtrend, which is coming up. You can see objects in mirror are closer than they appear. We're getting close here. So once we get to 8,400, 8,500, then I think we're going to see some fireworks go off. We don't know which direction it's going to go, but keep an eye on here. Set some alerts in, whether you use Blockfolio or any kind of a crypto app. Set some alerts for when Bitcoin gets up to $8,400, because at that point, we're going to be in a major decision-making point for the market. And that's when you're going to want to make some major decisions on whether you trust the market that it's going to go up, or that you want to cash out and ride the wave down and accumulate more when it reaches its point of support, which its point of support right now is showing to be about 78.50. So if you're going to sell up here because the market is starting to show a reversal, it can happen very fast, and we know this. We have seen these elevators that go from the top down. It's very possible it's going to move that way. But 78.50 is looking to be its first area of support where we're going to see some sideways. It's a possible area for you to accumulate a little bit, and then we'll kind of wait and see what happens there. So just a couple ideas. Again, not financial advice, for educational purposes only, all that good stuff, but feel free to share with your friends. We want everybody to have as much education as they can, because only an educated trader can make the best decisions with their own money. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to providing you with some other market sentiments on some other coins that have been doing well, and whether or not it's a good idea to get in or get out. So have a good day, everybody.